still got a few more people joining, so we might just wait another minute before we kick off. If you We need to get some nice holding music for everyone so you can be enjoying the wait while we're just waiting for a couple of people to join. We might wait one more minute, but welcome tonight, and we'll start in a couple of minutes or in a minute. All right, I think we might start, and we can have some people join us as they come along and quickly catch people up. So welcome tonight. My name is Mark Kinsella. I'm the CEO of the PSA. And tonight you're here with a very exciting launch of our Communities of Specialty Interest Interdisciplinary Team-based Care. So I wanted to, we'll introduce Debbie Rigby, who's actually the chair of the group shortly, but I wanted to just introduce to you the concepts of the CSI that we're launching tonight and how it's going to be supported by PSA to really engage with our members. But first, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands on which we're all coming to from tonight. I'm coming to you from Canberra, where the Ngunnawal people are. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I also would like to acknowledge those of you who are in lockdown in New South Wales and Victoria and ACT. I know it can be a tough time to go through at the moment, so we are thinking of you. I know pharmacy has been incredibly important in the work that you've been doing in the community, and the vaccination rates that we've got today are a real testament to the work of pharmacists across the country. So thank you, congratulations, you have been amazing during this pandemic. We're not there yet, but we very much pay all of our respects to the work that you've been doing. So as I said, tonight is a really exciting night. This is the second launch night of our second Communities of Specialty Interest. And what we're here to launch tonight is the Interdisciplinary Team-based Care CSI. And this is for pharmacists who really have actually been shining the beacon on advancing the profession for a long time. And I'm thinking of the consultant pharmacists that very fortunately I've been managed to be on Facebook groups and those sorts of things on. And for too long, we've had a number of forums that these groups can interact with, but not a formal forum for pharmacists to engage with PSA to help us support all of the policy and advocacy work that we do on behalf of the profession. So Debbie, I might just go to the next slide and we can outline a little bit about what the CSIs will achieve and how we'd like to set them up to support the profession and the work that we're doing across the profession. So PSA has always been very focused on trying to produce really good quality education, training, and to advance the profession around scope of practice, roles, remuneration, and pushing things like, clinical guidelines that drive the profession forward. And we've had some good successes in this area, like medicines administration through injection, immunisations, which have come through as being a vital defence to the pandemic. But for a long time, we've heard from members to say that there's not a formal feedback mechanism for members to be able to give PSA ideas about how you want PSA to be advancing the profession, to be advancing our clinical practice, to be advancing our education and training. And so the reason why we've set up these CSIs is to have a facilitated forum, which is a safe place led by leaders in the profession, but to be able to provide that collaboration, that engagement, that storytelling, but also opportunities to direct and inform the business of PSA in the activities we undertake to represent you as members. So that's the real focus. We really want to have it as the pharmacist perspective. And so you'll see in the CSI group leadership and membership that we want our members to be driving this, but supporting the hand in hand.
Seriously?
Oh, Lorraine, I think you might need, oh, perfect. I might just go to the next slide if that's all right, Debbie. So this CSI is a member-only benefit. One of the things that PSA has been focused on is you work really hard to support PSA. We acknowledge that being a member of a professional body is a really big commitment. And, I particularly pay tribute to all the branch committees who volunteer their time, all our members who volunteer your time to support us. And also as part of your busy practice life, just being a member of PSA means so much. It means that we can advocate to the federal government. It means that we can be working with the state governments. It means that we can be pushing and fighting for the profession across the board. But you've got money that you can use for lots of different things. And so we're really grateful that you support us at PSA to represent you. And so we wanted to create these CSIs as an acknowledgement of our members. We've got other forums like our ECP Facebook page, which are really good opportunities for people to be able to provide comment and engagement with the business and with the profession. But we don't really have a dedicated channel that allows good conversation and good feedback for us. And so this CSI is really an acknowledgement that we want members to get the best benefit possible from PSA and from the work that we're doing. So this is a PSA benefit. We've developed a dedicated online collaboration platform that will facilitate the CSIs. We've also invested in resourcing. So you'll see on the call tonight, Chris White, who's our CSI lead in the organisation, and Chris Campbell, who's our head of policy, who's on this call as well. And so they'll sort of be part of the very formal, resourcing structures that we put around the CSIs. But ultimately, the other reason why this is a member-only benefit is because we want members of PSA to get the benefit of PSA in our CPD activities and in our advocacy. And so that's another sort of focus of the PSIs, of the CSIs being the way they are. Debbie, I might just go one more slide forward. So in terms of the governance of the CSIs, the way we've established these, so we've got the formal governance arrangements of the PSA, which is obviously the PSA board, which is elected by our branch committees. The CSIs themselves will report directly into me. So they are a very formal and very appropriate policy and advocacy and information framework that will inform the business. So we've deliberately set it up that way. So it is a direct line into the activities that PSA does on a daily basis. And as I said before, we've got Chris Campbell and Chris White, who will be on all the PSI meetings. We've also got staff representatives that we've invited along who will join the CSIs, not to shape the debate, but to participate and have engagement with the debate. And so that's why we've structured the CSIs the way we have. Essentially, there are 4 CSIs that we're establishing at the moment. We will look in future to have other communities of specialty interest as opportunities arise and as interest groups grow and form, and we want that to happen organically. We've already had ideas of producing a CSI around Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Australians, because it's such an important health issue in Australia at the moment, and there are so many pharmacists doing amazing work in that field. This community of specialty interest, the Interdisciplinary Team-based Care group, is vital. And I'll give a little example of what we're already having conversations at the moment with the federal government around the professional programs component of the 7th CPA. We need very close and very immediate two-way conversation channels with our members so they can inform the conversations that we have with government. Because at the end of the day, PSA is the one that is at that table fighting for your role. We are the ones who see a very, very strong opportunity for general practice pharmacists, for aged care pharmacists, for pharmacists working in community pharmacy that happen to also be doing consulting pharmacy. And so that's really the value of this channel, and why we've got an interdisciplinary team-based care CSI as our first, as one of our first groups of CSIs to set up. Debbie, I might just advance one more. Oh, so that's just the leadership structure. So the way the CSIs will essentially operate is we can advance one more, Debbie. Thank you very much. So essentially the CSIs have got tiers. What we've been going through tonight, and Debbie will introduce you to the leadership group of the CSIs. So this is sort of the the peers leading the conversation through the CSIs. So we'll admit those. They need to be financial members of the PSI and be subject matter experts in the area of the CSI. They'll comprise of a minimum of 6 and a maximum of 14 PSA members. And essentially they'll be appointed through an expression of interest process and on a voluntary basis. In terms of the second tier, which is the practice group, which can include groups like students and early career pharmacists, the practice group will essentially be the next group that we'll start to call out. And that's what we're here tonight to do, is invite people to join the practice group, to start joining the online forum, and to start having conversations and sharing the work that the CSI will be progressing. And then finally, we'll set up an interested observers group. And that's probably more like, I don't know if many of you are on the Facebook ECP group, and you'll note there's over 11,000 Facebook pharmacists on that group. And quite a few of them don't actually participate in the conversation, but they are interested observers. They pay attention to the things that people are saying. They listen, they get advantage to access the various materials that are discussed. That's the idea of the interested observer group. So the idea being that you might be an interested observer on a number of CSIs. You might in your clinical practice be engaged, as I said, with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. You might be an early career pharmacist. You might also be a community pharmacist, but your real interest might be in interdisciplinary team care. And so you might be a practice group member on the interdisciplinary team care group, but then only an interested observer across some of the other groups. And that way we can start having a cross-pollination of ideas that will happen across the groups. You'll also notice on the forum tonight are the chairs of the other CSIs. And so likewise, the chairs get together regularly to talk about the priorities of the CSIs and to share and collaborate ideas so we can make sure that we don't lose any of the good things that are being discussed. And then just at the bottom, you'll notice that we do have PSA staff champions. So we've got, really luckily, PSA has some amazing pharmacists that work in the organisation. Over a third of our staff are pharmacists, and they're brilliant. They have amazing clinical experience. They have amazing policy experience. And so many of our pharmacists that work in PSA are also going to join the CSIs and contribute to the discussion. So please make them feel welcome when you're having conversations as well. Thanks, Debbie. So without further ado, we are very, very lucky to have an amazing group of leaders across all of our CSIs. I was on the community pharmacy CSI last night, chaired by Faye Sim. And I have to say, when she went through the list of people who are leaders in that CSI, I was blown away by the talent and the skill of the pharmacists that we have involved. And tonight, I think I will be equally as astounded. But without, a great leader, that's the key. And so it's my really great privilege to introduce to you, I'm sure you all know Debbie very well, but Debbie Rigby. And Debbie's an advanced practice pharmacist with postgraduate qualifications in clinical pharmacy, geriatrics and respiratory medicine. Debbie is a past national vice president of PSA, and she currently works in general practice, conducting home medicines reviews. She's also provides medicines education to pharmacists and nurses and general practice and other health professions. She has received numerous awards, many awards for her passion and commitment to pharmacy profession and the quality use of medicines. This has included the PSA Pharmacist of the Year, the inaugural AACP Consultant Pharmacist of the Year, the SHPA Clinical Pharmacist Award, and of course, most recently, Debbie was awarded our 2021 PSA Lifetime Achievement Award. So I would like to introduce Debbie and thank you for leading this interdisciplinary team-based care CSI.
Okay, thanks, Mark, and thanks for that introduction. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land and pay my respects to the peoples past, present and emerging. I've just spent a magnificent 2 weeks. I'm sorry to all the people in lockdown up in Arnhem Land. So I feel very connected both to our First Nations people as well as the land and sea up there. It really was a privilege to, and good for my own mental health to be up there away from Wi-Fi and emails and mobile phones for 2 weeks. But I would also like to acknowledge and thank the leadership of Chris Freeman, the president of PSA, for setting up these CSI, and also Mark's role in the, again, the setting up and the admin of it. I think it is a really exciting opportunity and member benefit for PSA members to have these CSIs, the communities of specialty interest. And I've long thought that we need to make the most of members. We've got lots and lots of content experts across therapeutic areas, across different areas of practice. And I really think these CSIs will make a big difference for the whole profession, but in particular for PSA members. So before I start, I'd just like to see I could see some of the faces. I know most of the people that are on this webinar. If we can just launch this poll to just sort of give an idea of who's on the webinar today. So you can answer to more than one of these responses. We're just asking, what's your current role? I suspect many of you are accredited pharmacists working in community, hospital, but also in, I guess, some of the interdisciplinary care models of care. So I can see the 3/4 are accredited pharmacists, but about 1 in 5 working in a GP practice. Similar amount, about 25% in aged care, and about 1/3 of people in community pharmacy, as well as academia research, which is what I'd suspect, because interdisciplinary care really works across many different environments and different situations. It's not just about, and I want to stress this, that it's not just about HMRs and RMMRs. They certainly are part of it. And I think we should be celebrating the fact that RMMRs have been going for nearly 25 years and HMRs for 20 years. And many of us have been involved with that whole journey. And many are just starting out on that journey. And I think the sustainability of HMRs and RMMRs has really been the success story of Community Pharmacy Agreement. As you know, they're funded through it and negotiated through it. But this is the mission statement for the Interdisciplinary Team-based Care CSI. And it's really about connecting, engaging and empowering pharmacists with a passion for collaboration, judicious and safe use of medicines, and with the goal of optimising patient outcomes. And we really want to recognise that pharmacists are an essential component of comprehensive interprofessional and healthcare team. So it is, as I said, not just about HMRs and RMMRs. And we did have a lot of debate about the title. I've said it so many times that it just rolls off my tongue, but it can be challenging for people when you first start saying interdisciplinary team-based care. But The word interdisciplinary was chosen purposefully. And this little diagram is just sort of showing or differentiating between the terms. They're quite often used interchangeably, but in the purest sense, multidisciplinary is the patient in the centre, rightfully so. And then we've got a whole bunch of the healthcare professionals caring for that patient, but not necessarily interacting and collaborating and communicating with each other. Whereas interdisciplinary care is the same model, all of us caring for the patient, but we're interacting with that common purpose, trying to improve the patient's health, to set goals, to make decisions, to help the patient make decisions for themselves, and to share the responsibilities and resources available. And then I guess the holy grail is the interprofessional care, where we're truly all working together for the care of the patient to meet their goals and needs around, in our case, around their medication management. So this slide is just sort of trying to encapsulate, and there's many, many more. And I think that's part of the role of this CSI, is to, yes, support, be advocates, set position statements, policy statements, etc., for existing programs like HMRs and RMMRs. We know we've got lots and lots of pharmacists in general practice, including on the leadership group, pharmacists in aged care, pharmacists in ARCHOs, more and more people working and in other environments. And some of the work that we're doing already through the CSI is around medication consults in PBSP, which is positive behaviour support practitioners for NDIS. And I see that as a role for this CSI, is to collectively use the wisdom of the people that are involved in it, people that are doing sometimes, I guess, almost behind the scenes. It's not well known that they're doing it, but they're doing fantastic and innovative work in other environments, with other organisations, with other government funding, such as NDIS. I've long time thought that we should, medication reviews should be involved with ACAT assessments. Manya Angley, who's on the leadership group, is doing a lot of work in disability services. Nicolette Ellis, who again is on the leadership group, is leading the way in doing, for many years now, in telehealth multidisciplinary services. And we're all trying to support these concepts like medication safety, QUM in aged care, transitions of care, discharge liaison pharmacists, and with the ultimate goal of quality use of medicines. And we've had a lot of stats over the last couple of years around the issues of medication misadventure and the Royal Commission into Aged Care and Disability. And they very much have highlighted the role that pharmacists should play and do play in the care of patients and trying to enhance that medication safety. So there's many factors, many other situations, many roles that we're going to try to be strong advocates for, to set policies, to provide education and skills development, and really wherever medicines are used, pharmacists should be. And I think that's the overarching sort of philosophy or ethos that we have within this group. So what are the key objectives? It's really, yes, it's accredited pharmacists, but it's not just about accredited pharmacists. We've got over 3,000 accredited pharmacists in Australia. And as I've said, they really have been the trailblazers for interdisciplinary team-based care. But there's many other non-accredited pharmacists working in these interprofessional teams. And it's top-down, bottom-up sort of information back to PSA. So discussing and advising PSA on current emerging practice needs and opportunities. And that's about education, resources, skills development. Communication is so important for team-based care. and yet we don't have a lot of education or sort of workshops on that at this point in time. There are some fantastic resources, the residential care modules that have just been launched on the PSA will support that, as well as the pharmacists and general practice modules. But PSA will then be able to provide, completing the loop, some supporting workforce development, collaboration, communication, practice change, and quality improvement. And that's at the individual level, but at the sort of systems level, the policy, advocacy, and practice change, and really to build and enhance models of care wherever medicines are used is the ultimate goal. So this is part of what the leadership group has worked on already, trying to sort of put in words our key objectives. These are not set in stone. I think we'll change them, enhance them, and prioritise them as we advance and grow through the CSI. But it is about initially establishing a network of pharmacists practising in or aspiring to practice in interprofessional care teams. And really that's why I would encourage all of you and many, many, hopefully hundreds, if not thousands more, to join and start. You don't have to be practising in these areas at this point in time. It's that you've got an interest or aspiring to practice in them. It's around enhancing those relationships and the cooperation and increasing collaboration within the care teams, but also the professional organisations. I do think that we need to, and PSA has been working very hard at it, but because HMRs and RMMRs and all the other scope of practice that I'm talking about is involves other healthcare professionals and in particular medical practitioners. So we need to enhance those strong relationships and respect and trust with those organisations to work together to ensure that medication safety. So the online forum will be the, vehicle for communication, discussion, sharing, empowering, debating, learning, connecting with each other. So that digital platform will be very important. We will be able to identify, from the ground up to your unmet learning needs so that PSA can build education, professional development, those communication aspects as part of their member offer. I think research, there has been a lot of research and will continue through the universities, but also practice-based research through the PHNs, through individual pharmacists is needed, because so often we're asked, where's the evidence? Show me the evidence that HMRs and RMMRs work and make a difference to patient care and medication management. It will, as you are sure aware, in the 7th Community Pharmacy Agreement, there was a line around a review of the existing professional programs, and in the Royal Commission in Aged Care, a statement, a recommendation around improving the quality and consistency of existing medication management programs. And I think we've all seen poor outcomes from HMRs and RMMRs. I know I've seen many other pharmacists' reviews, and I have to say there is a need to improve that quality and consistency. I won't go through all of these things. We will be developing, providing input into consultation papers, as well as developing position statements. But the first thing that we'll be kicking off is developing a white paper, and that's where we need your input, as well as that of the leadership group, to develop this white paper, which will help us to prioritise, to articulate the steps, the roles that we're going to play in enhancing team-based care. So I've mentioned quite a few things there, and I'd just like to, I'm only giving you a few options, but and you only are allowed one response this time. What is your highest priority for the ITBC CSI? And I've given you 6 options around professional development to improve that quality and consistency of HMRs and RMRs, advocacy around increased remuneration and changes to the program rules for HMRs and RMRs, position statements, communication, enhance that communication, describe and hopefully support career pathways for interdisciplinary team-based care, or identify topics for future CPD. So we've got a mix of responses. So I guess the one leading it at the moment is to enhance interdisciplinary communication at a practice and organisational level. So that gives us a great sort of stepping stone to identify what are your priorities, and certainly we'll encourage feedback through the forum that's available. Okay, thanks for that. So I just want to now, before we go to some Q&A, introduce the leadership group members. And as Mark said at the beginning of this webinar, we've got an outstanding group, and I really appreciate and thank the people that are all giving up their time to be part of this leadership group. And I'll just introduce a few of them to you. So we've got all of them to you, actually. So firstly, Tim Perry. Tim is an accredited pharmacist. He works across multiple GP practices within the Wentworth PHN, participates in research with UTS, and there's been some fantastic reports that have been on the Wentworth PHN website that describe and also show the outcomes, the results of pharmacists in general practice. Tim's also a former pharmacy owner and conducts medication reviews. So he's got a great understanding across the whole area of practice of pharmacists. The next person is Dr. Andrew Stafford. Andrew's an accredited pharmacist and an academic, a researcher. He's written many guidelines and is an excellent and very well sought after speaker at our conferences like ConPharm. Joy Gaylor, also an accredited pharmacist, GP pharmacist, aged care pharmacist. She's an academic detailer with Dartis in South Australia, who works or is contracted to NPS Medicine-wise and does a lot of other roles. Neil Petrie, also an accredited pharmacist, and the three, along with many other peoples in this team, was the AACP Consultant Pharmacist of the Year. Neil's does a lot of extensive experience in RMRs and aged care, QUM services, has a fantastic website and does a lot of work around guidelines. And along with Andrew and Peter Tenney and myself, we were the writers of the PSA guidelines for comprehensive medication reviews. Next person's Peter Tenney, accredited pharmacist, huge experience right from the very start in RMRs and aged care, also an academic and researcher, has many of you might be using his software that he developed, and is more recently also a pharmacy owner from in Tasmania. Manya Angley, excuse me, was the AACP Consultant Pharmacist of the Year and also the South Australian Pharmacist of the Year. She works in a general practice, has done a huge amount of research, particularly into post-discharge medication reviews, and does a lot of consulting and is passionate about pharmacists working in disability services. Nicolette Ellis, who's not with us tonight, she's giving a lecture on Q-script at the moment, has extensive experience in multidisciplinary care. I mentioned earlier that she runs a telehealth, works in a telehealth and pain management service, is a fantastic presenter and medical writer, and a new mum, only 4 weeks old, I think 4 weeks, 6 weeks old, beautiful little girl. And the last person is Deborah Gordon, and I apologise, I haven't got a photo of Deb, but she has been involved in the PSA WA-PHN GP pharmacist trial, and is also a PSA employee. So I think you can see we've got just an extraordinary group of people that are involved with this CSI. So the journey. So how can you participate? And this has been mentioned. I don't know how many of you were on the webinar last night. There's 4 community of specialty practice areas. You just go to this URL, or you can scan. We're so used to using QR codes now. Scan that, go there, click and join the interdisciplinary team-based care as I speak. And this is what the forum looks like. There's a lot of discussion there already. I would encourage you, certainly at the early stage, to change this to every post. You can change it to weekly or daily. But I think as we start communicating and growing, every post is possibly the best option at this stage. One of the things I do want to stress is that we know that many accredited pharmacists are working in community pharmacies and also in hospitals. So it's not just about independent accredited pharmacists that we're supporting and want to engage and involve in this CSI. I won't go into any detail here, but like any forum, we need to have some rules, that we need to be respectful, empowering, and it's a safe environment for discussions, for asking the so-called dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question, but we have such an experienced group of people, but also some people, as I've said, are aspiring to work in this area of pharmacy practice. So never be afraid to ask a question. There's always somebody that will be able to support you, to answer you, to steer you in the right direction. There are some instructional videos and guides on how to use the platform, and Chris Wyatt has been mentioned as PSA staff will help you on this membership team for any of your queries if you have any problems navigating around the website and the forum. So I'd like to open up to any questions. I can see I've just gone to the chat. There's a few questions.
There's a great question in there, Debbie, from Lisa. And Lisa's asked, to what extent will the CSIs and PSA lead collaboration and communication about the objectives of the CSI group with organisations like RACGP, AMA, and do the leadership groups have scope to collaborate with key opinion leaders in these organisations?
Absolutely. As I said, I think that's one of the key things when we're talking about interdisciplinary team-based care, that we're not doing it alone. We need to collaborate, and PSA needs to collaborate with these the medical organisations like RACGP and AMA and the PHNs, as well as the aged care organisations like LASA or LASA, however you say it. I personally know the current presidents of these organisations, and that's all always a first step, and as do clearly people like Chris Freeman and Mark. So I think it is important, and that'll be one of the first things that we try to encourage, because I'm astounded, we now have the capacity, and it's not just the AMA, it's the RACP, the colleges of general practice, so that involve medical specialists as members, that we now have medical specialists can initiate or do referrals for HMRs and RMMRs. But to my knowledge, there's been no communication out to their members to initiate or do HMR and RMR for referrals. So it is important that collaboration at an organisational level occurs as well.
And I was thinking, Debbie, the early career pharmacists have probably coined this in their first opportunity. So they do collaboration sessions with groups like the dentists, the physiotherapists. Now it'll be a different type of engagement, but we can absolutely, organise and facilitate forums like this where we can have those sort of sharing of knowledge events and all sorts of things too.
Yep. And also, there's so much stuff happening as a result of the Royal Commission in aged care. And part of what we've been working on already is around, I guess, some of the confusion or frustrations around the quality indicators that are required for aged care, and in particular, the percentage of residents that are on 9 or more medicines. And there's contradictory information on their website. And Neil, Manya, and a couple of others on this webinar are working, trying to get some resolution and sense out of just what do you count? Do you count individual products, or do you count active ingredients? So that's just an example of the advocacy that we can and are already doing. Manya is leading, and Neil Petrie is also helping, looking in, as I mentioned earlier, around NDIS and the role that pharmacists potentially can play in a remunerated way, doing medication reviews, doing the initial assessment. So there's lots and lots of opportunity for that communication. I can see Lisa's asked a question about communicating with SHPA and their practice forums. Again, we're all in this together, and I think that discussions, I'm on those forums, as are many of the other practice groups. So I think that's important too. And, try, especially when we're advocating for changes. There's a consultation paper out at the moment around the review of the old APAC guidelines. They're now being called QUM guiding principles. So those sort of things are really important. And I posted this afternoon a link to the surveys that are being run by the Commission, Safety and Quality Commission, around those QUM documents. So we need the input of people that are working in those environments to enable sensible changes and to be strong advocates for it. So if people got any other questions, or you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you like. So just while we're waiting for any more questions, Manya, are you on? I can't see whether Manya's on the line yet.
Yes, hi, I'm here.
Hi.
Yes.
Thanks, Manya. Do you want to just briefly say a quick thing about the work that you're doing with the NDIS?
Oh, right. So working with Neil Petrie, as you mentioned, Deb, and a bunch of other pharmacists, some of whom were PSA general practice pharmacists, for a project led here in SA by Helen Stone, who's our branch manager. But also other pharmacists in Victoria and in New South Wales and in Western Australia. Also Sarah Gillespie at AACP and various PSA people, working with disability providers, and one provider in South Australia who had a brainwave that pharmacists could be funded by the NDIS as positive behaviour support practitioner supervisors. So that's completely above board. These supervisors can be of any discipline, they just need to have greater knowledge than the positive behaviour support practitioners. So because there's a requirement to produce the best possible medication history and upload it to the NDIS portal for a behaviour support plan, PBSPs were struggling with that and identifying whether agents were being used as chemical restraint. So we've worked out that as an interim step, doesn't require a GP referral, but a pharmacist who has the appropriate expertise could conduct a medication consult in a supervisory capacity for the PBSP, which may end up triggering an HMR. So Chelsea Felkai, who's doing a PhD in disability, is going to evaluate this process. So it's all very early days, but taking off in a really exciting way, and the enthusiasm and passion is just inspiring. So that's where we are, but clearly it's something that fits within this forum because the pharmacist will be integral to the team around the person who is an NDIS participant. So working within a multidisciplinary team.
Great, thanks, Manya. And I think that's just the perfect example of the sort of leadership, innovation and advocacy that we can enable through this. So I'll hand over to Mark now just to do some final remarks about our other events and things coming up to World Pharmacist Day in next weekend. But I'd like to thank you very much for participation tonight. Please go and register for the CSI, and hopefully we can make this a very vibrant and interactive and positive CSI and get some changes and support people, because we all love working in this area. I really want to pay thanks to the leadership group. It's a great group of people. They are the leaders in this area of practice, and I very much value their time in supporting it. So I'll hand back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Debbie. And wow, Manya, my mind is already racing over ideas. We actually our next medicine safety report is going to be on disability. Chris and I have been meeting with the NDIS, the NDIA, and the commissioning body, and I'd love to feed some of these ideas into the conversations that they're having. This is exactly why we're setting up the CSIs, to be able to have that, on the ground roots working on new practice, and then that all cascading up into how do we alter government programs to deliver better outcomes for our patients. So wow, I couldn't have found a better case example of why this CSI is exactly needed. So thank you everyone for coming tonight. Again, there's a couple of activities happening across PSA in the next couple of weeks. So this week is CSI week. We've launched today the multidisciplinary team-based care CSI. Yesterday, Dr. Fay Sim launched the community pharmacy CSI. Tomorrow, we've got Cynthia Bosnich launching the respiratory care CSI, which is going to be a really interesting CSI. I'm really pumped to see how that's going to help us both with advocacy, but also with our training and education and development. And then finally on Thursday, we've got our CSI for early career pharmacists. And so PSA has been really lucky for a number of years to champion early career pharmacy. as a group of professionals that are highly motivated and highly engaged. And so this CSI, I'm also really looking forward to seeing how it will advance. So the QR codes there, you can just scan and sign in. Please enjoy. Also tomorrow night, we have a webinar on rapid antigen testing. So I don't know if members have been listening in the media, but a lot of work has been happening internationally using rapid antigen testing to get us out of COVID lockdowns. The UK, Israel, Canada, even some of the Jamaican countries are using rapid antigen testing as a way of helping have more localized lockdowns rather than going to whole of state or whole of region lockdowns. We think that community pharmacy desperately needs government funded rapid antigen testing to support your workforce. And so we are advocating very strongly for that. So tomorrow night's session is a really interesting look at rapid antigen testing by experts in the area. And then finally, coming up to next week, which is World Pharmacist Week, which is focusing on pharmacists being the trusted profession. And we've got, very excitingly, our Excellence Awards, which will be on the Friday the 24th. There is a free URL link to our awards ceremony. We've got a really exciting awards ceremony with our Excellence Awards winners and some fantastic leaders in the pharmacy profession. So that is on Friday night. There's a YouTube link, so it'll be live streamed via YouTube. We'll send around to this group and to members further promotion about the Excellence Awards, but I'm really looking forward to the Excellence Awards on Friday the 24th in the afternoon, in the evening. And then finally, obviously, World Pharmacists Week and World Pharmacists Day on Saturday, the 25th of September. We will be doing a whole bunch of promotional activities. We've got some fabulous videos of leaders across the profession doing what they do every day to make a difference to our patients' lives. And so please thank you for all your work as pharmacists. I really want next week to be a celebration of all the work that you do to support our profession and to support the patients of Australia. I'll leave it there. Oh, sorry, one more, PSA Connect. We've got a careers webinar that's on the 22nd of September, so early next week. There's some really good speakers that we've got on that PSA Connect webinar too, and lots of varying different degrees, from people who have just started in the profession all the way through to advanced practice pharmacists and those sorts of things. So if you're interested in advancing your career, please tune into the careers webinar too on the 22nd. So I will leave it there and close by thanking you all tonight for being part of this event. You are what makes PSA special. You are what makes PSA possible. We are nothing without our members, and we're acutely aware of that. And these CSIs are exactly our acknowledgement that our members are the most important part of PSA. So thank you very much for your time tonight, and I look forward to engaging with you through the CSIs.
Thanks, everyone.